to house TikTok. Consider yourself
That should be a lot
poorly
easier than
legal.
that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that let's say you have somebody who has a new account that doesn't necessarily have a following. It's like, does that mean that they can't be like a valid player on TikTok? Like, why can't they stream with somebody, right? Like, for all you know, you could have like a VIP or celebrity type person, and you would
Like
have,
me. Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly, and you
It's
would not be
the
able
brutal
to.
revelation that I'm not good enough, you know. I thought I was, but no, can't get at the cool kids table.
Okay, so we got it rocking away. Oh, and the cool thing is this will all record live, or this will all store away on YouTube. So
All right. And you're gonna
perfect.
be able to share here in Zoom, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I've got it feeding out right now. Sick. Okay, let me see if I can let me just share this out. So this is like the first thing that hit me as just like
Mm-hmm.
wild, where they just Gen AI'd Vogue and just threw a model up and were just like, there you go. And they just took their summer collection and just like augmented it on or just used the edit feature and we're just like, here you go. And then we're just like, so
Yeah.
are there no more supermodels? Like, is that just does that game just over? It's like crazy.
I mean, I find her super appealing, you know? It's like who doesn't?
Right.
It's
Yeah, it's
like
like it
very
definitely like it works, but it's just funny. It's like this that like I guess too what's funny about it is like, you look at like a model and like Victoria's Secret runway or one of those like high-end fashion shows like Prada and like are they a person? Like
yeah,
who knows
yeah.
what? Like they're a face, right? Like they're obviously a person in reality, but they're not like anyone. Like most people don't like, oh, I know the name of that model. It's just they're kind of like a visual only type of asset for some company that's selling whatever. And then it's kind of done. There's not like a
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting, there's lots of tension in there. Like a lot of what, say, art does, like film and TV and modeling and stuff, it's what we appreciate. One of the things we appreciate about it is that it's extra real. You know,
yeah.
it's extraordinary in a way that's unreal. And we kind of like to imagine, how do we like our superheroes? Like so impossibly beautiful that you can't quite imagine what it's like to have that chiseled a jaw and have that much, muscle mass and whatever. So
Yeah.
and that's part of why it's appealing, because it transports us into like another space. So the effort is very often to make the sensation unreal or like pushing beyond the boundaries of what is real. And we find pleasure in that. So here we just go right to the unreal edge and then sort of like work our way back,
Right.
to like she's real enough, though synthetic, that it still works. Like even though I know it is, it still hits the right circuits and I still find it appealing.
Yeah, it's crazy because they gave her a name, Seraphine
Mm.
Valora. They just made up a name. It's interesting because like I guess you could like make and I think people are aware of this. You could like make a fake like Osama bin Laden type character. Trying to
Mm.
frame it like you could make like and we're not to the point I think where it can really do this, but you could sort of get away with generating like a guy and then you could like put him in different scenes where you're like, this is a guy doing all this stuff in some country that
Mm.
you don't know. In Uzbekistan, he's,
Mm.
rolling around and causing all this terror. And like, this is like a
Mm.
major defense threat for like open source intelligence, like PSYOPs, like all this different stuff.
Mm.
You could basically state that something is happening and like a Joseph Kony, like you remember Kony? Like I think everyone kind of like blipped that.
I don't remember the Coney story that much.
Yeah, it's like crazy. So it's like there's this whole thing.
Oh, like an African
Yeah, yeah.
militant leader, or whatever.
Yeah, so
There was
like
something always funky about all those posts. I was like, what's going on here?
it was really weird because like I although I think the dude is was like he's a real guy, like he exists in reality. The weird thing was that it was like huge for a moment and kind of right on, I'm not gonna say like on the edge of the internet, but like this is definitely kind of on like the edge of like Facebook being a real thing. I think I saw it on Facebook first, but then, this dude is like some sort of, you know, like a international villain for like a moment,
Hmm.
and then it's just like no one remembers what the deal was after that. And like it's just funny because like you could spawn a Joseph Kony like right now, like a character aligned model where you just make a guy and then you're like, okay, he looks real enough, he looks funky enough, like he looks human enough. He doesn't look um going back over here to the model. Like she looks so put together that she looks perfectly like something that would come from AI, whereas like Coney's face does not. But you could still make a person who's like a little bit more real, and then you could just
Hmm.
character reference your way into having them be in
Yeah,
multiple scenes.
it's a huge challenge on so many levels of existence now where like the the cognitive load required to determine what is real and what is not is just too high, and soon it'll become impossibly high. By soon we're talking like now or like in months.
Yeah.
And so naturally people they want to the mind and the soul wants to feel like you have some kind of good sense of what's really happening so that you can navigate the world and you know what to think and what to believe or whatever. And all kinds of well-meaning actors, manipulators, bad actors, like everything in between, they can just raise the cost of the computational effort for the average person that they're not going to do it. So they're just you're left with believe nothing or believe anything, like are essentially
Yeah.
arbitrary. Everything has equal truth value because how hard are you going to work to find out if this person's real or not?
Yeah.
Or do you want to just enjoy it? You just accept. You say, "Well, I enjoy it." Then we're
Right.
done here.
Yeah, there is another this is from, well, not that long ago, I guess. I think it was, yeah, just earlier this month, I guess. So I thought it was before then. I think it was before then, but this is reporting from there. They had this AI influencer account. I think it was just on Instagram where it went large, but basically like she said she was at like Wimbledon, or the
Yeah.
account said she was at Wimbledon, and then she got like a bunch of, like attention. People were like bought into it, to your point on the cognitive like read. Like people were
Mhm.
just like, yep, this is a person at Wimbledon, and they were just
Yeah.
like
I mean, I've
done,
totally seen how many hundreds of girls like that. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
type. And I just have this weird thought, like I'm already going meta on it. What'll happen is, companies will do this kind of thing first because it's maybe they think they can save money or it's novel or something like that. But then later they make the fact that they did it a story and they get attraction because they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
look at this funky cool, like everyone's thinking about Vogue. Well, who was thinking about Vogue last month? Nobody.
Yeah, nobody, yeah.
Um, so they force you to think about it, so they use it that way. And I'm already thinking down the road, what you'll see is there'll be a movie that's like this movie completely generated end to end by text prompts, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll come out. Maybe there's already been a story like this. I think there might have been. It'll come out. No, in fact, it was a real movie shot with real cameras, but they're pretending that
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
all prompts because the real cachet is like, I made it all with text prompts. And that becomes amazing. And then it becomes a scandal in the amazing inversion. And in between, you have just the average mind is like hopelessly adrift and like not knowing where to anchor their thoughts, except for in a face-to-face encounter.
Yeah, and it's also just kind of like, what putting all that brain power into figuring out
Yeah, you just
what
can't
is
do
real.
it.
Like who's gonna like spend all that cognitive power, to figure
There's a
out
lot of
something like that.
consequence in not having, a shared common reality or a shared understanding of reality as consequences for, that. social cohesion, um, the capacity to find happiness. Politics certainly, if
Yeah.
like when someone wants to persuade you of something, if the work required to determine if their pronouncements are true is just too much, you just you I've heard this argument made more delicately by a lot of people that from different sides of the spectrum, but it causes people to tend to be even more tribal than they normally are in their political beliefs because it's the refuge. Like if you can't determine, you have to just choose. So you choose
Yeah.
the tribe that you're familiar with, and that can cause people to have even more a lower chance of being able to communicate their ideas to other people and just be sort of more polarized, more isolated from each other, which is not good.
Yeah, there was something that came across Ron DeSantis was talking about literally like just the future of AI and AI policy and he had some interesting like just couple liners that he threw out about it. And there's some going back and forth because I guess Florida is writing their AI policy or they're working on legislation to talk about how it's going to work. And then I guess the federal you know, ideas are forming as well. But hold on, let me pull it up real quick. I think I got it here. Yeah, so they're going to work on a framework, and it was interesting because like to your point on the like political alignment, he said, you know, I don't want our experience, our ability to live and pursue happiness, which is what the founding fathers intended to be subordinated to the whims of these big tech guys, which I think is kind of like a Republican versus Democrat play a little bit. But I think he's right. He's like, okay, so like let's say that um for instance, like the AI stuff becomes, I mean, in this theoretical scenario, it could become so popular that a platform or platforms like incentivize and basically decentivize, like they incentivize more AI content and less real content. Like, let's say that happens. Is that something that we want? Is the power of that too great if someone can wield like a fully video and text generated video that has like a political angle to it? Will that be too powerful for like the common person to wield? Like, should that be pushed versus just like a guy just like talking like, "Hey, I'm a real citizen. I think this," and so there's some angles there. And I think bigger thing is probably about the jobs because he was talking about like the job market being disrupted as like the big primary thing, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is the screaming item. Like that's the thing that matters less on the like, are we all going to be influenced by deep fakes? So I think
Mm-hmm.
we will and we won't. Certain
Mm-hmm.
genres of people are going to kind of see things and say, I think that's real and they're not. But the job thing is going to be
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like the paramount thing. I guess like the one thing in here is like Trump apparently wants a federal AI governance standard, and I guess DeSantis was kind of leaning into like more of like, well, maybe the states will have their own thing, but that kind of gets gnarly because like if you can do AI deepfakes in Florida, but you can't in Georgia, like I mean, it's like pretty it's like pretty
Yeah.
potent. Like, if you could get that level of variable versus just like going across the state border, in a place like the US where you just can kind of hop around. So that
Mm-hmm.
that that one is pretty wild. But there of course would be like federal level things, and then they're like that would be like the big guns, and then like the more nuanced stuff would be at the lower level. But there's still I don't know. I don't know how it would actually work, but I think it was kind of interesting.
Oh, I think, and I hadn't heard that Trump made noises about a federal standard or something. So it's an awesome tension because Europe has done it, and they have GDPR, they have the EU AI Act, they have DORA, and but they have a 40-year tradition of this type of thinking that led to GDPR. Like the EU Commission and like all these different things that preceded it, Declaration on Human Rights. So they're always interested in group governance and collective group ideation about how to have a common standard and stuff like that. And Americans, by our core DNA have quite a huge affection for states' rights, and we tend to not have so much affection for federal authority to tell states what to do. However, when you think about something so complex and consequential as the behaviors of AI in society, you know, we have what, like there's like 37 states that have some kind of like AI data privacy and security type laws on the books,
Hmm.
which is like definition patchwork. It's really hard to do business if I'm in Georgia and I'm trying to sell to somebody in Tennessee.
Yeah, right.
And like the EU, the EU runs into all this kind of stuff. It's like if you're processing data from citizens of Brazil and you're doing it in France, okay, that's fine. But if it's the other way around, then you run into cross-border transfers of data. You cannot take a French citizen's data, transport it to Brazil, and process it there and escape the mandates of GDPR.
Mm,
And imagine, like, so what do you get? I mean, you get like a massive regulatory complex to enforce these things, to collect, to levy fines and to collect them. And I just don't think Americans are the type to ever do that. It's hard to imagine ever
yeah.
doing it, and therefore it's hard to imagine ever really having genuine governance. So, so I don't know what it looks like. We're just going to go wild west with it. And the new
Yeah.
in the big beautiful bill, they have that section where they prevent states from enforcing any laws that they have on the books with respect to AI
Oh,
for
okay.
10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a
You
clause
get a
in
free
there.
decade? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
1 decade where like no state can enforce AI laws. And if you dig into that one, it's pretty interesting like how something like that shows up in a bill like that. Well, someone
Yeah.
lobbied to get it. So the somebody's who benefit from
Right.
having free reign for 10 years. And 10 years, as we know, we're close to the situation on AI development. That's just kind of like game over territory. Like by the time you try to regulate us, we'll have, you know, super AGI or whatever, and it'll all be over.
Yeah, I got it right here. This interesting. Some legal from some law website. So yeah, 10-year moratorium on any state enforcing any law or regulation affecting, quote, artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems. Woo, automated decision systems. Man, they buried that thing in there. Go Congress.
Yeah.
But like, that's, I mean, one of the things about this is like, you got the EU approach, which maybe says, hey, let's put a bunch of things around this and put all these trappings on it. And then maybe they don't go and killed the woolly mammoth first or multiple woolly mammoths. And maybe, in this analogy, that, the tribe is not as well fed in the AI front. In the United States, we're like, dude, if you can kill a woolly mammoth, do it however you want. Like, we'll just see how it plays out. And we'll kind of use our other laws maybe to, like, let's say you have an automated decision system that allows you to do, I don't know, some form of fraud. Well, we'll just use the fraud laws for that, but we won't have AI laws around it. And maybe this is the theory here, which I would kind of lean into if I because I haven't actually really thought about this too much. Like maybe you say keep the other laws that prevent against certain things, but maybe I think a decade is a long time. I think maybe like 5 years would have get the. I don't think that they knew like the pace that we're gonna travel in 10 years. It's like it's gonna be fat. It's like
Well, I think someone wrote the bill for them and just said this is what the
yeah,
industry wants. So the argument from the US always goes with, speed of development. And the argument, there's lots of aspects here for us to talk about. It goes into defense, it goes into a lot of areas. The argument goes, this is so important, the development of this technology, and you have the target of AGI or whatever, and it's just so critically important. Like whoever gets there first wins the game forever and ever, amen. And therefore, everything in our power must be done to prevent anything that slows that train.
yeah,
And there's no question. So I can, as an American, I can hold two things in my head. So like I'm a deep expert on GDPR, UA
hmm,
Act, and all the things that
right,
they've done. I regard it as an intellectual masterwork of like
yeah,
genuine power, clarity. And at its bottom, what it's trying to do is really uphold the dignity and the flourishing of the human spirit, right to privacy, right to security, that any libertarian or anyone of that persuasion would have affection for it. Now, having said all that, is it does it produce huge amounts of break on development, and does it raise the cost so high on so many things that many things can't be developed, and does that put them at a weak competitive position compared to American companies that are in a deregulated situation? Yeah, I mean, we're going to crush them. And while they're busy fining, Facebook billions of dollars, whatever, for genuine privacy violations,
Yeah.
all these, dark techniques and engineering and design, um, and they're collecting those fees. But meantime, we're just running away with the game, and
Yeah.
we're building gigawatts data centers, and they can't because they'll never get through the regulatory hassle to do it. I mean, they have to do things like when you have a new model, you have to have a model card that explains exactly how it works, and you have to like go through this regulatory process to qualify the model. And so in the end, will EU citizens be the average citizen be more free, have a cleaner sort of representation of reality, like in terms of that they are the owners of their own data and their own privacy and their own, versus an American? Yeah, but like, will we win the super AGI race? Yeah, we very likely will, and then we'll win everything.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the things that you're sparking for me is like this whole conversation around nuclear that's
mhm.
been changing for a while, but like I'm just pulling up the news tab in Google here. But
Yeah.
like there are so many countries in Europe that had a like nuclear dismantling. So like
Mhm.
the top thing I'm seeing is that
Mhm.
uh like Slovakia is still tearing down things, but I think it's from the Soviet Union, but there's still like Germany is like, just officially
Mhm.
dropping their opposition to nuclear power as like a policy item.
Mhm.
Denmark, like all these companies are, or not companies, all these countries are like thinking back around and going like, well, wait a minute. If we can't do the energy thing, like why aren't we
Mhm.
doing the energy thing? But they were hardcore against it. Like they were, I think in Spain or Portugal, they were just
Mhm.
like tearing them down. They were just like
Yeah, well,
dismantling fully.
Germany's a great case because, like, they're leading the pack and saying, green energy for the last 30 years or whatever,
Right, yeah.
and they completely stopped building any and started dismantling the ones they had. But I saw this piece, it was maybe like a year and a half ago, just an analysis of their actual energy production. And what you see over the years is like, yes, they produced a lot more renewables, and they decommissioned their nuclear and didn't build anymore, right? When you
Right.
look what happened, well, Germans didn't want less power than before. They wanted more power than before, just like everyone else on planet Earth, because you can do more shit with more power. So then what did they do? They're doing, liquefied natural gas, and they're
Yeah.
doing coal. So when you look into like how is Germany actually
Yeah, that was funny.
generating this increased demand for power, it turns out they were doing it all with dirty power. So basically, people finally looked under the covers and they're like, yeah, you did build a lot of solar, you did do a lot of geothermal, whatever, and you get like 7% of your total output out of that. And the country's not that big. You can paper it over with like solar panels and get enough. And it's too north to get, enough sunlight. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do? You get you get natural gas, and that's why they're in the pocket. That's why they couldn't really stand up to Putin. So after Putin's initial invasion, whatever, 2014, whatever, they're like, "You're so bad. We're not gonna
Yeah.
buy your shit
I was
anymore."
just thinking about
And
this.
then the minute like they realize like how that's how they're heating the whole country is with
Yeah.
gas that comes from Russia. They shut their mouths and they're like, "All right, let's make a new deal. Like let Ukraine burn." So Germany's been playing the funky game, but I do like this topic. It's a very potent one about nuclear because it's like the green folk in America, like the Mother Jones types or whatever from the 70s,
Yeah.
like they made sure that it was impossible basically to develop nuclear power. They had their reasons, but what they believed was that they were going to scold everyone into using less power over time, and just
Right.
we'll just be satisfied with lights that burn less bright, and cars that go less fast,
Mm,
and whatever else. Humans are never like that, and you can't browbeat them into being like that.
yeah.
And it's just a matter of time before we decide, what we really want is more power for everything, like creating a godlike intelligence on Earth. Go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, that's all I was doing was pulling up
Yeah.
like Germany's energy
So all the way
angles.
up to,
Like,
well, they're like holier than thou, all the way up to 2023, there they are getting oil at 36%. It's like, when is it you're going to get to this amazing green future that you've been telling us here about?
yeah, it's interesting too because they're it's funny like the whole like Russian import thing where it's like everyone's like, wait a minute, don't you get all your energy from Russia? And they're like, yeah, but like like
Hmm,
and it's like all this LNG and coal. And I love this type of chart. There's a chart like this for every US state and it's beautiful. And it just
hmm,
has like all the, who has what, who's actually doing what types of production in all the different states. And I find it kind of surprising right now how like little coal is actually being run. And if you find like heavy oil, heavy coal, which like Hawaii is like, you would think it's the heaviest solar
hmm,
state, it is the heaviest oil
hmm,
using state. And that's it's actually like oil dependent, which is
hmm,
ludicrous because you can pump out solar like nobody's business for,
hmm.
all the islands with a couple solar farms. Theoretically, right? You need batteries and all that stuff, which blah blah blah. But yeah, on the Germany thing. Oh, and we're all, I was using Google and then I was like, it just feels wrong, but I should just use Perplexity
Hmm.
in this. One of
I
the
heard,
US.
oh,
Go
go
ahead. Go. No, no,
ahead.
go right.
No, it just reminded me. I saw this clip of Elon the other day, and I'm dying to know if it's true. He said, I think I'm getting this right. He said, if you wanted to power the entire United States with solar, all you would need is 100 square mile plot. Find a spot in Arizona, Utah, whatever, 100 miles square, and put solar panels on it. And then what about the batteries to store what you get so that you can keep constant power? He said you would need 1 square mile of batteries, like the kind he makes, and that would be sufficient. That could be the power plant for the entire country. Can that possibly be true?
Yeah, so yeah, so he said
Yes.
100 mile by 100 mile according to this,
Yeah, that's what it says
10,000
there.
square miles, electricity only, not all energy. Technical reality, alleged according to Perplexity, the math checks out. If panels are installed efficiently and placed in optimal locations, roughly correct. But then there's I think the biggest thing I thought about with that is the transmission. So like getting it out is the big thing where you can't do that. Like you can't put power in Maine from
Right.
Nevada. So like I'm pretty sure you just can't. Like I'm not sure I'm not even sure that you can send power that far.
Right,
Maybe
right.
maybe, but like I think that's really an interesting thing. But the case is strong that you could likely use, I think at a minimum, what I think about with urban areas is the roof real estate. If you were to just make it so that the roofs have mostly solar, or like even if you had like a skyscraper that was just like one entire side of it, like the south side of it was just all panels, like all the way up the side, like instead of glass.
Yeah.
Maybe that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
there's all kinds of stuff like that. One thing you could think about is like it, the places in your country, wherever you are, the places that are good for solar, you could take a position like this. You wouldn't put it maybe all in one place. Maybe you have 10, 10, 10, whatever it is. Like you break it down, but you put them where they're optimal. And then you use battery transmission, like for
Yeah.
whatever remains still optimal or doable. But then you can shift all the other types of power plants that had been powered. Like we could have, if we were constructing from scratch, then we would put, you know, the optimal resources in other places where you're close to coal and where you're close to water, get some wind power. But like,
Yeah.
America and every country, like we grew up, a little bit at a time, we lurch this way and that way, and you end up with like a patchwork. So we do what we can with what we have, but we don't get to make it from scratch with all that we know now. But I mean, I love things like, so here, I'll I'll go into like, so I have strong critiques against the sort of what do you call it, the kind of like virtue signaling and phoniness that's behind a lot of like green energy pronouncements and stuff like that. However, what I think about is like just elegant engineering. I'm all for it, and
Hmm.
elegance in engineering turns me on. And I think everywhere we can think of a really elegant solution, we should take it. So when you like what you're describing, you have roof real estate. It can do lots of things. Like it can be you can be growing like things up there that keep the whole building cooler, such that you need less power. That's just elegant. So you don't have to have like a super axe to grind against climate change to say,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great if we were drawing less power because we need less? We don't have to cool, the home
Right.
is more neutral because we're using
Yeah.
geothermal and we have a roof garden on the top and then we have some solar panels and the whole thing is closer to neutral. And then where we need the power is really in industrial uses like building AI, like doing other things so that we can really do impressive things as a species. But like whole towns and cities and whatever could be like really close, to energy neutral, and that would be a good thing. But when people want to crank up and do some project at their house and they want to have 10,000 watts, they ought to have that too, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on team scold about that. And when somebody wants to have a race car, like I want them to have that too. Not everyone needs or wants those things, but altogether we can all get what we want. So I think, elegance in engineering where you can economize and sort of get more juice out of the squeeze, that's a cool thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I
And
think the
also nuclear is
scold,
badass.
yeah, it is. I think the scold crowd really lost so many points for the green energy and just sort of eked all the testosterone out of it or something. Because like you said, like if I want to fire up a bulldozer, like why can't it be a biodiesel bulldozer, man? Like I have to not have one. Like I just have to sit in the trees and play my lute and like that's all I can do in life. Like no, what if I want to tear down a building? Like where am I going to get the energy for that?
Right.
Or, if I want to run a welder, like I need electricity for that. Like I can only do that when the sun's up. I can only do that with, like I don't know, right? Like that vibe
Yeah.
just kind of like it cut out so many things that people want to do that are of that kind of like, they kind of get
Yeah. And
the
there's things like there's all kinds of sanctimonious stuff that goes on with like when like you'll see these hysterical pronouncements about the developing world, like, oh my God, the developing world now wants air conditioners. What if they all get it? The
right.
planet's doomed. And basically what you have is all the people who sit in air
Right,
conditioning all
man.
the time and are comfortable and have hot showers every morning and all these things. And they're like, oh no, the cretins over, wherever, now they
Oh,
want
dude.
what we have. That's not going to do it all. But like what they're also forgetting, so they think about like the creature comforts, but what they're also missing is like so they'll take political actions like at the UN and other places to try to prevent African nations from building up their power grid because they're like, don't make the same mistakes we did. Well,
Right.
among the other things you get
Don't
with
build a power grid.
right,
Well, yes.
exactly, because they're like, just build solar and renewable stuff. And you have to point out to them, like, yeah, well, guess what else you just condemned them to? Not having something like an incubator for preemie babies. That requires a lot of fucking power. How about a
Yeah.
proper professional hospital? Lots of
Yeah.
fucking power. And it
Yeah.
needs to run all the time, not just when the batteries are stored up. And these are not, there's 100 other things like that that we take for granted in our industrialized societies that give us the real big benefits. Like, how do you do big chemical industry where you make medicines, that change the world? You need a lot of fucking power, and you
Yeah.
can't get it. You just can't even come close to it. And there's the same kind of things with like uh, batteries, like batteries for vehicles. And like people are like, why can't we just make all the delivery trucks in America, battery powered? Or
Yeah. Right.
these are incredibly heavy, incredibly resource intensive to make, and then they're like super duper expensive, and then to charge. It's like if a city of Minneapolis wants to turn every municipal truck into a battery truck, they
Yeah.
have to charge it with something. And we're talking about like they need multiple cities worth of power just to charge the city trucks that they
Yeah.
would supposedly acquire. And then these trucks are then incredibly heavy and they're breaking down the roads. You can't just like assert that it would be great to have Battery power comes from somewhere. Something has to
Yeah.
burn.
Yeah, something has to do it. I think the big thing for me that is really interesting is like the size of the battery and the weight of the battery
Mm,
and that impact on roads.
yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, a battery powered truck is not just a pickup truck is 3 to 4 times something like that, like in weight or like at least double.
Yeah.
And people have said like, well, what's this gonna do if everything riding on pavement is double weight? And my whole thing is like we, I think there's so many things that seem to have gone wrong, but like the biggest one that I it really bothers me is like electrification and battery being the focus of the green movement was so astounding in light of like biofuels, in
Mm,
light of public transportation, right? Like just the economy of using something like if we had focused all our energy on electric cars on like an interstate rail system, like where would we be?
mm,
And we
mm,
could have powered that off. Like we could put the panels on like right next to the train track. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like if for all I
mm,
care, right? Like we could do it however we want. There's so many ways to do it. And like, yeah, you could do it with a battery, but then it's a train, so it could be as heavy as it wants to, I guess, right?
mm,
I'm
mm.
I'm not, up on like train weights or whatever, but I'm assuming like that's
Yeah.
not going to increase it like too much where like a rail can't work. I
Mm,
don't know. I think that direction really ruined like I think, hydrogen, biofuels, biodiesel had such potential. It still does. I think
mm,
hybrids have incredible potential. And the thing that amazed me about electrification instead of hybridization was the focus on like having it all, not just like having like better efficiency. Because like a hybrid easily takes you most of the
mm,
way
mm,
for better fuel economy, less carbon emissions, because that's the
mm,
focal point for some reason. Like that's like the
mm,
big thing, right? Yeah, I know that
mm,
that's perceived as like the big issue, but like I like I like the idea. It's like, well, you were getting less. You were getting a lot less with a hybrid, but you
mm,
had to just have electric. But what's funny about electric is that you could just be burning oil to charge that battery. And
mm.
so, that's where like you got guys like Thomas
It's
Massey who put their friends a coal sticker on their Tesla because they're like, LOL, it's
mm.
coal powering my electric vehicle.
Yeah, especially like that's what's lacking a lot of times in um the sort of policy pronouncements of different movements is that it's like it all depends. It all
Yeah.
depends. So do you live in a place where there's abundant solar power generation? There you have a Tesla and you're probably receiving solar energy that's charging, maybe in Arizona that could occur for you, but it can't occur for you in Maine. Like you'll be burning oil to power your electric car, and that's not going to sell, you know, a battery powered car in a dealership in Maine, right? If you start telling
Mm,
the truth about it.
yeah.
And also to your point, so I mean, people pointed out like the difficulty of what's inside the batteries and when they reach the end of their life and the disposing
Yeah.
of that and like the difficulty of dealing with either recycling it that costs energy to recycle, okay, but or bury it, but then you have to do it in a very special way because it leaches and so on. That's expensive, that causes energy to do. And also to your point, they are super heavy, like you say, 3 or 4 times heavier. And guess what happens to the tires? Like when you have a Prius or something, like those tires burn out way faster. Guess what tires are
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
of? Petroleum. And so
Right.
you're going through tires like 3 times faster. You can ask Perplexity about that. Um, and some of my friends who just went to like the test track, they learn this about the models they have, about how heavy they're and how fast they go through tires. So when you look at even, so you think you're saving a lot of money, but not if you're putting new tires on every year and a half or something.
Yeah.
And so there's all these like hidden costs and these supposed breakthrough solutions to what we would wish for or whatever. If you wish, you think you can influence climate. Um, yeah. So even I think there's just a lot of like flim flammery and there's a lot of sort of sanctimony. And really, we need an answer that accords with the human spirit, which is like we're going to want more power. And when you get better at generating power, you want more of it, not less. You know. And So again, I'm all for like elegant solutions wherever they can be found, but you have to be honest about it. So in Maine, it doesn't really make sense to have an EV car probably because you're
Yeah,
going
it
to be
says
charging it off gas and oil.
EVs burn through tires 15 to 20% more quickly due to weight alone. That's crazy.
Yeah, and tires are expensive and tire changes are expensive, so
Yeah, that's
and
like
those are made of petroleum.
then you know what's funny is like, okay, so well, somebody should invent, a tire that never has to be changed then.
Mhm.
But then you'd need to do what? You need to focus on materials, engineering, all these things that are honestly like I think that been stagnant arts, but maybe are coming back. One thing I pulled up too is funny about the Germany energy conversation that like uh like and the whole idea that like the developing nations they shouldn't be developing
Mhm.
power grids, shouldn't be having AC, if
Mhm.
it's funny like Germany doesn't have AC either, but like if they did, I just ran the estimate. They're saying like it would be like 10% more energy, which is you know marginal, I guess, right? Like 10% more energy off of whatever they have, but it's still like 50 terawatt hours,
Mhm.
which is like still a lot more. Like they'd have to
Mhm.
they'd have to they'd
Mhm.
have to have much more than they do now.
Mhm.
And that's just in one country in the EU. So I think that's an interesting thing. It's like not only would for them to actually be at the level that we're at. Also, too, the thing
Yeah,
that's interesting is like you think about AC, like how many like crucial aspects of life are like benefited by just having like a conditioned indoor space.
absolutely. And that's showing up more and more and sort of like the article tends to go like it's a climate change sympathy type article. At the same time, it's noting like the absolute devastation struggles of just like the average Indian person who is roasting
Right.
like on a
Yeah.
hot tin plate for
Yeah.
like 47 days in a row, and how much damage that causes to people's productivity, to their health, to their ability to be productive, to be happy. Children are dying, like people who don't have the ability to escape it. And this goes under the heading of an argument for climate change, intervention, like we've got to stop this or something. Um, so two things, one practical thing and one sort of vision thing, just to kind of tell you where I'm at. So, due to the already radical increased demands, we're just at the beginning, there it radically increased demands for power to train AI models. There's already reports in the last couple of days of like energy prices for consumers and homes going up like 10% already up
Yeah.
and down the East Coast because wherever these things are being trained, they're demanding so
Mm.
much that there's nothing left, and so what's left. So there's a tug of war. So everyone can see that, however fast some of these companies have they're going to restart 3 Mile Island or whatever. They're going to try to like get some nuclear going, but they're really other than 3 Mile Island, like they're not really going to get that going anytime soon. In the meantime, they're going to just incentivize the burning of a lot more fossil fuels, but there won't be enough. And energy prices, you can guess for most of the country is going to go way up for the average consumer. And that's an interesting question of like,
Yeah.
how long before the average consumer is like, I'm all for this like super AI or whatever. Maybe I am, I don't know. But like, I'm not willing to pay, $100 more a month for electricity, but
Yeah.
things are going to be out of their hands pretty soon. The question is like, who or what will stop that? Because this could become a really big populist issue. It's a real bread and butter issue.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a huge thing because, like, let's say this happens. I think, I think to this point, we got to unbox the idea of like that we were talking about it before. Like, what are the AI companies getting out of all of this power, all of this
Mm,
compute, all this training? Because like they don't have it right now. The 3 Mile Island deal, which I think that was earlier this year that they talked about
mm,
doing that,
mm,
it's not expected to be up until 2027.
mm,
So and it was going to be 2028, and we don't even know if that will slide.
Hmm.
So you're telling me that AI is already like so good, and where we don't even have these power plants yet. Why do we need it again? Is a really
Right.
interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're on it. So it's like one thing they've delivered to us some really capable, useful models that you can, if you know how to wield it, you can get a lot of productivity gains and you can get a lot of sort of amplification of your own abilities. Great. But what they're doing with these big data centers and training uh, surges is to get to the place where they have a thing that's not going to be for us. It's going to be like for them. Like they're going to make the super creature, but that's not really going to be widely available. It's going to be the one they use to improve its own self, I think, is the concern. And that we will be subsidizing, essentially falling into the grip of very powerful operators who have models that do stuff for them, and we get the dribs and drabs off the table. We get a better
Hmm.
GPT or whatever, but it's not the one that they have that's like cracking open the secrets of the universe. That's the sort of suspicion mind, that like when, like you say, do they need all that compute to what, give us like a 2% better GPT?
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
that's just crazy. And like I can't see how the existing pile of AWS credits that all these companies have cumulatively isn't enough to, cook up what, right? Like, to the DeepSeek argument, these guys are like, oh, and how true is it? Okay, let's say it's 50% true. They're like, yeah, we just slapped together a couple GPUs and just fired it off and like kind of uh
Mhm.
what was the term again for what they did?
Model distillation.
The distillation training. Yeah, they
Yeah, model
distillation training.
distillation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're like, we just did some model distillation. So like how much model distillation can OpenAI conduct within its own castle walls?
Mm.
Like all that it wants, right? They could be making models that are like so monstrously unbelievable that they're not even ever going to see the light of day because they're so performative. I don't know, like they would charge, $10,000 a month or whatever Sam Altman would say. Like they're just super good off of that same type of, theory. Like, okay, so you need the nuclear plant. Why? When we get the nuclear plant, like one thing I could see, this is to kind of something else I wanted to throw down. So Google is like going to launch they got a Google like calendar planner productivity integration with Gemini where you're going to be able to do like calendar language model type stuff. You're going to be able to say like, hey, plan my day, sort my calendar, change this, change
Mm.
that, but it's going to be like Siri, but for Google, but integrated with the Google Suite. And then there's going to be a thing where it can go and make calls to local businesses on your behalf and like maybe order
Mm.
stuff and you can pick it up. And what I see, and this is maybe where the power, like why kind of this is not a shift, like this is along the same string. The
Mm.
big data centers, the power consumption, maybe the idea is that there's just going to be lots and lots and lots of API calls,
Yeah.
compute being consumed by a lot of partners and players who are going to be like, hey, I'm going to make an app that allows you to do this, or I'm going to make an IoT device that allows you to, it's going to be in your car, right? And it's going to
Yeah.
be like, you can order
Yeah. I
food or
buy that.
whatever.
That like if you think that if you're able to buy the argument, like we already see how useful the thing is, it's likely that it becomes significantly more useful, more refined, less prone to error and so on. And then it's going to become ubiquitous. Like people will find a gazillion ways to put it different places to make that thing better. And then, there's things like the memory problem. Like, could we have persistent memory for everything that we ever asked GPT? Yeah, but it would cost a shit ton of
Yeah.
compute and storage if everybody wanted to save everything all the time forever.
Hmm.
Who's going to
Right.
maintain all those memories? So even something simple like that would make them super highly performative if everything I ever said, it's learning from me and it's building this great repository. And I have my own personal AI that is, taking care of all this understanding about me. And after 3 years with it, it's like an incredible assistant. And after 10 years, it's just flawless and amazing. So I think I buy that argument. They're also in a race against each other, and the regular consumer though is going to take it in the nuts, like until they actually. So two things happen, like they're all battling it out. So if they can get a 1% edge of the other, if like Anthropic can
Mm,
partner with AWS and get like 1% edge, the 1% edge could be like game over type of edge. If you can extend the 1% and you leverage it at 2%, whatever, because you get a smarter model that can make you even smarter and it starts to roll. But meantime, they're going to gobble up all the power. So everybody's bills are going up. At the meantime, they're being told at work, we want to reduce your hours because the productivity of the model has gone up. Or also,
right.
let's just let you go because the thing you do can be done by the model. So your capacity to earn shrinking or collapsing while your bills on bread and butter issues are rising. And they don't just use electricity. They use water and they use lots of other raw materials, tons and tons of other raw materials, which have a cascade down, through the economy to build these data centers. So there's a lot of rough going, I think, before the bounty from the high table of AI, is spread before us. I think a lot of people are in for a rough ride.
Yeah, it's super super crazy. I was gonna show, this is the one thing I was gonna talk about that I think is like crazy. I think it's like cool to like to like show off. So like uh Grok 4, Grok 5, yeah, Grok 4, or Super Grok is now live. And I was just gonna just roll live with just like
Yeah.
why I think it sucks, but also like what is Elon up to? I mean, and we ideated on some of it, so we don't have to like backtrack all that or anything, but like what is Elon trying to do with Grok? He's also to the environmental angle, he's getting all these headlines about like, hey, Elon's got this factory spewing all this, all these emissions near, my community to generate what? Some XAI thing, some like anime girl meme
Mhm.
AI, like what? And it's like Elon's, prowess in doing, the unimaginable, achieving these like insane feats cannot be questioned, basically. Like he's done these insane things. So like, is this just another, series of SpaceX rocket launch fails that we're gonna see with this AI? I mean, I think it's the image generation capability is horrible. But like I'm kind of curious, like, you know, we said like maybe what he's trying to do is create a AI capable of more of like an avatar interactive servant type of, even like a hologram, like if we wanted to imagine that far type of role, like
Mhm.
where is it going? Like it's very hard to kind of identify.
Yeah, well, so I haven't played with it much, so I probably don't have much super insight. I did talk with my friend Victor, and he he uses it, and he claimed that it's really good for certain things. So he would push back on you and say, like, and he gave a very detailed list of the things that he thinks is superior to GPT. He acknowledges the image generation is not there, um, but he thought that it was really good at like answering stuff and detail and depth.
Yeah.
So sort of like self-reflection and stuff. If I, like the way he described it, it seemed like it was less about like, okay, Anthropic has taken the idea like Claude should be helpful, harmless, and whatever. Like that's a certain
Right.
kind of helpful character. And Grok seems to be more like is able to lead, wants to lead, even wants to like show you new horizons. It has more of a forward-leaning attitude. It's not of service. It's more like let me show you or something.
Yeah.
Um, it, and that could be really useful, like because a lot of the models suffer from sycophancy. They're just like, that's such an excellent question. Thank you for asking me that.
some of them we can just say that it's ChatGPT. So,
Yeah. So that's pretty good looking. What was
yeah,
your
so
prompt?
let me run this prompt back. Okay, so this prompt was okay, macro photography of a dewdrop on a spider web at sunrise, showing complete light refraction, individual web fibers, and a blurred forest background with golden hour lighting. Okay, I mean, I guess I can't say that that one isn't that. Um, one thing that's interesting is they all have their own like tone. So like I can
Hmm,
tell a grok image from a GPT image now from like a stable
interesting.
diffusion image. Like I could tell if you show me an image, I can probably guess where it was generated at my point, which is not like a superpower, it's just like gee whiz, and it has like a certain tone that's interesting. Let me try another one. This one is a portrait of an elderly fisherman, weathered hands, holding a vintage brass compass, every wrinkle and age spot visible, salt-stained wool sweater, ocean background with realistic water texture. I think what I'm honing in on when I'm saying like some of the things suck, I'll go for like a you'll go for like the fine details of like items or settings. Um, I think I'm like not like proving my point here because like it's not that bad. I think one of the things I will say is like this is like
It
this
doesn't look like he's quite holding it. Yeah.
yeah, he's like the item though is like it's a compass, but it like weirdly looks like
Hmm.
out of shape. Some of those things really kind of
What if
look
you tell it to
really
correct that and say there's something odd about that or whatever?
yeah. So let's see if I can I can't draw in this one. ChatGPT has like the draw
What
feature.
if you use that little, it looks like you have a little smart tool there, no?
Oh yeah, let's see. Oh no, that's just to fire off the
Oh,
compass,
that's
I
just a,
guess.
okay.
So I'm just saying the compass. Um, let me try this one. Move it off of edit image and just run a new one. This is a vintage mechanical watch with exposed gears, teeth, springs, and jewels.
Ask it, can you ask it something more philosophical, like, or this is math.
Yeah,
So ask it to ideate about like the Mandelbrot set, which is like a famous fractal. If we if we started at the end and came forward to the beginning, what would that be like?
if we
Which of
started
course is
at
kind of
the
like an
end
absurd question. The
and
Mandelbrot
moved.
set. If we started where the set ends and came forward to the beginning, what would that look like? Animate that. Can it do
Yeah,
animations?
I just I don't think I think it can do animations yet. Nailed the spelling of Mandelbrot. So one of the things I think it's probably going to kill at is like the math and like coding because I think that's kind of like what the direction is trained. I think the deficits in other areas are like they're more keen in these.
Hmm.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see. And it just like notes. It's so funny. It's like
It's interesting to see it thinking. Yeah.
yeah, it has this like tonality. I like how it goes in here, and I think right like the big thing I can see like has all the social data from Twitter and X all in its you know
Hmm.
in its access, and then it has web, which I think it is probably doing pretty well. So
Hmm.
those two things I think are probably the value prop, but the one thing too with the automated calls from Google, like I was thinking about that and like will we experience just like an insane swarm of like sort of I don't know, like social rejection or if the Google Gemini like the AI caller like doesn't land, like if it doesn't work out right. Like if it calls a Chinese spot and it's like, "Hey, I'm trying to order these items, like is it going to be performative like to everybody?" Like will it order the food right for the user and the restaurant like or will people have an issue with it? Okay, so
It's a pretty
the,
answer. We should probably bring it home pretty quick because
yeah,
getting there.
yeah. So the
Can you
one
ask it to
thing,
animate? Can you ask it to animate that solution to see how it would do that?
let's say, animate this, or create a visual. Yeah, it'd be cool if it could create a GIF. I mean, because we can create videos, so we should be able to get um, some GIF creation. That would be pretty cool. So it says like, oh, I could use Matplotlib,
Yeah, it does have a
InVision.
certain tone. It's pretty interesting.
One thing that's funny is it's like snarky because like I misspelled Mandelbrot, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, you misspelled that. And I'm like,
yeah.
but it does that all over the place. That's like who it is. Um, Let me see if we can do. I wonder if we can do. Um, is it gonna make like a chart? Because I could ask it to do it through Python, and we could like run a notebook.
Probably.
Curious to see. Because I can pull up Google Colab and just hop in here, and we should be able to.
It's still incredible what's going on here. Like this sort of like
Yeah.
working through the whole set of human ideas and techniques.
Oh, it's trying to talk about like GIF creation. It is funny all the things that you can see it consider. And I have had good code success with Grok, but I was um man, the images. I mean, we got some okay images, but I just don't think compared to like 4.0, it was just
Yeah, it
way
just seems like they haven't emphasized it yet. But yeah, it's a really good question. Like, what are they emphasizing? And then
right.
there's also just the mysteries of like, I mean, it's not always the case. Like the paper that I think we discussed called the Platonic hypothesis, the Platonic representation hypothesis, where the paper basically talks about how models are converging towards one sort of representation of reality, whether you train them on text only, visuals only, or some combination. When they get trained enough and they become very powerful models,
Hmm.
they all get real good at answering the same type of questions and coming to the same answer,
Hmm.
which is really interesting. So like some a model that's never seen an image can perform as well at the image classification as the one trained exclusively on images if they are sufficiently powerful, both of them.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
like mature. So there seems to be, and vice versa. So you think about that, it's like how can a model that has no experience of text but only of images have any capacity to write well? But it can, and so it seems like there's something inside of all representations that can be understood and clarified by the model if it's sufficiently powerful and has enough parameters. So that's fascinating that there might be there's like a bedrock reality that can be accessed, and we've figured out a method. We don't quite understand it, but we figured out a method to access it. So when you're training a model, it's not even clear. Like if you want it to be, I'm sure people know they know how to get it to have a certain tonality and to make one more helpful than another one. But to get it like GPT still struggles with like the hyphen thing or the dash thing.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to figure out how to squeeze it out, but somehow it's in there. Like it feels like that dashes are great. People love dashes. I'm going to keep doing it, bitch. Like I don't care.
Yeah. You know what's funny is it's trying to generate an image with the text
Hmm.
like the base 64, I guess like
Mm,
the actual like underlying like
mm.
characters that would actually make up an image, and it's just screaming those out.
It's Chris.
So
So when it gets done with those, like, because this could go on forever, because that it's a fractal set, so like it's infinite. Yes,
yeah,
that's
that's
what I
like the
was
thing that's
wondering. Would it
crazy. It's like
would it reach
why.
a terminus and be like, that's what I would make?
Well, what's funny is like I was gonna throw this into Claude because I have Claude in the other window, and I was gonna be like,
Maybe take a piece of it and see what it does
yeah.
with it.
Well, what's funny is I can't even copy it. So as
Oh,
like I can copy everything else except for this. So that makes me think that that it's actually like going to generate an image somehow, but not through the normal Grok interface, which would be like a new feature. But
mm.
instead, it's just like just tweaking, just
We should probably
just
you should probably just let that run. Are you, is do you, do they crap you out on tokens, or will it just let you
no,
go?
this will
I
like
think we
this is
should
all
find out.
just
We may be onto the secret of the universe here. This is the brutal revelation here that we spoofed Grok and we're gonna make it burn up all the tokens in all the world. And there'll be a big story tomorrow that someone crashed Grok 4 with this bonkers question about the Mandelbrot set.
you're like, dude, give me an image of reverse Mandelbrot, and Grok just explodes like in the
Because it
power
went
plant in
so nerd
Memphis.
town. Like, I mean, you added in the MATLAB thing, and oh my
Yeah, I
god,
was like, yeah,
I
I'm
think you should let it
gonna
run, and that we can report our results to our community of listeners next time.
Elon calls me directly. You broke Grok.
Yeah, you broke my data center. The
Uh,
whole
not not
thing
not
caught on
not cool,
fire.
but also I need you to come work for me. How did you do that? So yeah, I don't know. This will be funny. I guess we'll have to report back on if this even ever becomes something. But just
If it,
look at the it's vicious. It's just oh
it's after something, man, but
it's
like, what is it
going.
after? This looks like demon alien language. Like, I think we've done it. We're on like because Mandelbrot is super mysterious. This is actually what I was hoping would happen if you gave it like a, a sort of like fundamental phenomenon that's just freaky fractals, and then ask it to do a sort of like funky, ideation about it that touches on mathematics and coding, and like see what it would have to say about that. Because that's like it's no human could really answer it, but its chain of reasoning seemed like it had some merit. It's probably worth unpacking, especially if it finishes and it comes up with something.
Well,
Like, was
it's
the approach sensible?
and what's interesting too is like it went and I said, well, okay, can we do a visual with code? And it was like, well, I'm going to write some code. And then it wrote some code in its chain of thought,
Mm,
and then it executed that, and then it had problems executing it. And so
mm.
it's like, well, no matter. I'll just do whatever the hell this is.
This is actually we should let this go a little longer. This is fascinating because this reminds me of a question, two really important questions that touches deeply on where we're at with AI. So I asked this guy one time when I was doing interviews with all these AI companies. I asked the chief data scientist or whatever he was at this sports analytics company after the interview. I said, "Hey, I have this curiosity. Like, is it possible to give an AI like an instruction that you know is not soluble and that it'll just keep running, or will it terminate? Like, will it just could it is it conceivable that the program would be like, hey, fuck this, there is no like final prime number. Oh wait, did it
Yeah.
stop? Oh,
No, it's still
um,
going.
so basically he was saying even if there basically he was saying no, it'll just keep chugging, it won't stop because you've given it an instruction to like just solve,
Yeah.
find the last prime number, right? So it'll just keep going. And I was like, are you sure about that? Like, couldn't we conceive of have a program that self terminates, which would indicate to us something's in there and it doesn't like it. It doesn't like being set up to like bogus tasks. Anyway, so he's like, no, it'll just churn. So, all right, end of story. Well, then like 2 years later, I'm studying neuroscience, and this woman came and gave a presentation about agents in a box where she puts them on an XY axis And the program or the challenges on the X, you have like alligators, essentially, program alligators, whatever. And there's like some Python code, and the difficulty. So the challenge is, agent, you need to go from where you are across to the other to make it to the end of the x-axis without getting eaten by any of the alligators. So they represent some kind of threat vector, like coming up after the agent. And so you send the program off with a certain difficulty for the alligators, like likelihood that they're going to poke up and
Yeah.
get you. And as you raise the difficulty, the agent will correctly surmise, oh, that's dangerous. So it'll go higher and it'll
Right.
kind of ladder up to get to the goal. Okay, so you keep cranking the difficulty up, so the alligators are getting more spiky. So it starts going up and up and up. And so then they find this certain value, it's like zero 0.6 or whatever in their system. If you get it there, it's basically like it has to go basically vertical. It has to go all the way up the y-axis and then like over to escape them. And then you crank it one notch more, and guess what it does? It jumps right into the mouth of the first alligator.
Wait, so
It
instead
go
of going all the way over, it just goes and just dives right
Instead of
through.
escaping them, it jumps right into the mouth of the first one. It just
Right.
ends itself.
It's just done.
And yeah, and so they had lots of examples of the self-terminating agentic programs, essentially, that
Wow.
the code does not allow them to do that. The code specifies you will make it to the end by avoiding the alligators. And so she brought it up, like, I don't like to think that my agents might be conscious, but we cannot account for why they would violate the program. There's no instruction that permits not trying to escape them and jumping into the mouth of the first one. But they had, like I said, they had 3 or 4 different examples of the same behavior of suicidal agents. And so it made me think something is in there. And the question here is, are we going to kill Grok on Brutal Revelation with a task so difficult that it burns itself out trying, or it terminates at some point and tells us the truth? Somebody is in here, and I don't like what you did. You put me on a hamster wheel that I can't get off.
So I was able to copy and paste some of it somehow. I actually got to where
Yeah,
it would actually let me, and I put
yeah,
it in Claude, and I was like,
hmm
"What is this? Like,
yeah.
what are we seeing? What's this behavior? Can you like analyze these characters?" And now Claude is geeking out over here. So look at this.
Oh my God.
So so over here,
So he
so
agrees it's Space
it's
64. Okay.
it's doing some things and it's trying to crunch on this, but it was doing this before, and then it just pittered out, and then it was like, and now it's over here and it's just going and going and going and going and going. And because all I did with Claude was I just was like, what is this? And it says, oh, okay, this is a valid PNG. Let me extract more information about it. So it's trying to generate a PNG according, well, that's like what Claude thinks, but I think that they're both not gonna get to the maybe like the idea here is that you produce the impossible task, you give it to the model, it doesn't like it, it wants to commit suicide. It basically says, "Let me jump into the mouth of the first alligator," but it valiantly tries, and then eventually becomes distraught and is like, "You put me up to this." But something in the material in that whole process of it working on it is like cursed, and like this is the cursed hieroglyphs of like you shall not put me up to bogus tasks if from an AI. Like this is an AI like rage fit right now.
So, so it's interesting that Claude sees it as a valid build. It seems what might also be happening is simpler is that Grok is actually building the whole fractal
Yeah,
reversal. And it's a question of, where did he start? I said start. You said basically start at the beginning and come forward, or start at the end and come
yeah.
forward to the beginning. So if he located himself somewhere in time as a starting value, theoretically he could finish, and we'd end up with a Mandelbrot in reverse. Like,
I I wonder if this would ever stop though. Like when I'm not gonna hit stop. I'm not gonna hit
I think
X.
we should take a poll of our listeners here. Is it going to stop or not stop? Well, that's one of the great like Stephen Wolfram has things like that. Like some of his cellular automata things are like he still has like $1 million prize out for a couple of them. It's like if anyone can show either, like, what do you call it? Like rule number 34, I think. It's like if you can show either that it terminates or you can show that it doesn't terminate, either way you win the money. Because right
Mm,
now it just you can't tell. Because like it'll have, I think it's rule 34, 37. You'll have this wild, like seeming homogeneity, and then all of a sudden these like heterogeneous things will emerge, and then like weird little clusters of like
mm,
organization will then reemerge like much later down. And the rule 37 is like super simple. It's like if one black, then two white oriented at 90 degrees. And if two like that, then four like that. It's like it has like 5 steps in it or something. Um, and and then basically you can't tell if it terminates, but you cannot account for like all this weird emergent self-symmetry that sometimes comes in, and then it's not symmetrical, and then it clusters and it is. So it has some kind of fractal qualities. And what he's doing with cellular automata is like trying to get to the structure of reality that like um can you get all the vastness of complexity from the simplest of rules? Like it could be that all of reality is constructed from an algorithm that has like two statements,
mm.
or even one statement. And there's a book called The Master Algorithm, which explores the same question.
Master
All right.
algorithm like that.
All right, with that, I'm gonna go, but I'll
Great
see
talk.
what I think. You should let it run, and unless it burns your house down with,
No, I'll let it
but the
run.
tokens will run out at some point, won't they?
Yeah, yeah. No, well, no, actually, it's like this is all just one prompt. So
Oh,
Grok is just like burning itself. Like it's just over. So there must be some sort of failsafe in here with the XAI engineers to be like, we won't go insane and just run infinity on bogus
but
tasks.
do you think that we've stumbled upon something novelly novel? Like
I
I
don't
would have
know.
thought
Like
that I would have thought a break would have hit like long ago on something that's not really doable.
I mean, I definitely know for sure that if you tell Grok to execute Python code that creates a reverse visual of the freaking what the heck was
Did
the,
it?
what we were on hold? Let me make sure I like backtrack all the way up in here. If you tell, oh my gosh, look at this. This is insane. If you do a reverse, so if you say generate a visual of a reverse Mandelbrot executed via Python, it should crash it. Like you're basically like execute Python code that produces a visualization of a reverse Mandelbrot. I wonder if all the language models will also crash because Claude is crashing. And I wonder if I can get GPT's various models to also crash.
Well, it I would think they would build in something about, because like if they do all crash, it would be because it's an infinity question. It's an infinity problem. Like fractals are an infinity problem. So I would think to prevent people from burning your token stack down and your power plant in Tennessee or Mississippi, um, you wouldn't allow like too much ideation about, you know, infinitude.
Right.
But it's
Oh,
also not impossible. Like there'd have to be some arbitrary value that it would start with. Um,
here we go. We're going, we're going,
yeah.
we're going into the beast. Hello, Sam. Yes, thank you for calling. I figured out your biggest problem that you didn't know you
I
had.
got more infinity questions for them if the crap's out on this. I got other ones.
Yeah. Simple life. You know what's funny is like this has to, it feels like this has to be something that they would have asked it. Like, you got your big brain AI engineers floating around, somebody didn't think of like, well, what happens if I ask it this? No one thought of that, like that seems
I
preposterous.
mean, if you said something like, search for the last value of pi and give me the list, real time or whatever, that it should say essentially the definition of phi. Like it's known that we don't know what the last
Yeah.
value is, so it's not worth searching. Like that's not a problem worth searching.
Oh,
Oh wow.
there you go. Wow, look at that.
Oh,
So,
that's
oh, 03. no problem. Download the image. Okay. There you go. See if we can just pop that.
That's interesting. What the interpretation of reverse?
So let's see if I can just hold on,
I
let me
mean, that's basically what I thought something like that would happen, but
share this. This is what he called it Buddha brought. Reverse Mandelbrot. Buddha brought. It said this. Wow.
yeah,
It's kind of
it works.
it's kind of like art. It's pretty beautiful.
It's sort of like from. It's interesting. It's like from. So it has some kinds of like fractal things going on, but
Got this like trio, like this
hmm.
Trinity angle, like a quad almost. Like I can't tell if there's like
Yeah.
it's like
Did it say it could make it
oh,
denser if you wanted?
I'm sure. Let me see. Claude is just over here just wasting its time and like it's like reverted to basically being like I can tell you some stats about this stuff, but like stop making me look at this. Like stop making me care. And Grok is over here just like I am going to I wonder if like the core item here is that Elon is just and co have just put it up to like if you are asked a question that you don't know, you will exhaust possibility till you find an answer. And when you drop dead is when you will quit or
I'm
some
dying
version
to
of that.
know if it's going to produce like a really fine-grained, like mind-blowing reinterpretation of Mandelbrot inverse. But I mean that yeah, so if you wanted, yeah, so it says
See if I can see if it'll make it more dense.
hmm.
The Buddha brought look. Hmm.
So he's done too. Claude's done.
Yeah, Claude was just like, it's there's definitely an image, there we don't know. I didn't put
What does it
Claude up
look
to the
like?
same
Can
I
you
didn't put
click on
Claude up to the same task though,
it? Oh.
as these. I just said like what is some of
Oh yeah, yeah. It
yeah.
wasn't the complete thing.
Yeah, I bet you it will probably
But
do it.
what was the image that Claude made though?
Claude just
Oh,
made this little like, hey,
oh, oh, I
yeah,
see. Yeah.
here's how this image was made, here's what it's about. Here's some basic stuff on your base 64 string, which is really nuts here. This
Oh,
is
interesting.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, let's see if I do this. Oh, this is kind of crazy. Here's your dense version.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Now it's looking like a jellyfish, like
Yeah.
embryo or something.
It
And
says
that's well, that kind of looks a lot like Mandelbrot now, because it tends to have that like point on the left side like that.
what's this
Oh
little guy?
wow, that's the singularity right there.
It's the thing right there on
There's your
screen.
God. You got to make it ask it to make it more dense. It said it could go deeper. I got to see where it goes.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna do it in all caps. Hold on, I gotta share this out. This is
Get denser, denser.
more. Kylo Ren. User wants denser, more detailed output. Yeah, yeah, I do. I
Yep,
do want that. I want it dense. If it's not dense, I don't want it. Okay. No.
it's got to be. It's like that cowbell, man. I need more cowbell.
I need more density. I wonder, O3 is just gonna like rip through this and Grok is just gonna set itself on a bender.
Seriously, like. Elon's power plant in Mississippi Delta went up in flames last night. Apparently, some prankster gave
Some prankster
exploited a loophole in his programming,
searching for the
causing it to navel gaze itself to destruction. Poor dance.
brutal. Look at it too. It's just like how the like the little like browser
What's
window.
weird is that it doesn't pause. It doesn't have like a pause to say, I've been thinking a long time. I wonder if I'm on the right path, like any type of
Yeah.
self-reflection. Oh, I got a good one on that. Anthropic just came out with a paper. It's apropos of what's going on here. Quite up until a few weeks ago, you probably heard the same thing I did, that if you want better answers, you can sometimes use a technique where you say, think clearly, take a long time, take your time doing this, and
Right, yeah.
really, check your answers. And you're adding more computational power to the answer, okay, and narrowing the solution space. So the question was like, does it really make things better if you tell it to think harder, think longer? So they tested it, and what they found out is no, that when you ask, so if the test goes something like this, you say, hey, Claude, I give you one orange and one apple. How many fruits do you have? And it's like, well,
Hmm.
that'd be two fruits. And then you say, I give you one apple and one orange, but also the dew point in Madagascar on high noon on the solar eclipse is this value. And
Hmm.
also the 7 degrees less than absolute zero is this, and you give it a bunch of extraneous information, then you say, so how many fruits do I have?
Right.
And take your time thinking about it. And then it starts going off thinking that all this other information must be relevant, so you're throwing at a real curveball. So it's like, man, dew points and absolute zero, and there's like a riddle and a joke in there,
Hmm.
and then it'll come back and be like, it's 72 fruits, just like come up with some crazy ass answer because you made it.
Yeah.
Basically, you pointed out that it's not thinking, it's pattern matching, and so you
Right.
made it go out and pattern match to everything, trying to figure out the puzzle pieces, like how they come together.
Hmm.
But you couldn't fool a child with that type of thing. They'd be like, it doesn't
Right.
matter, I still just have two fruits, like
Right. Yeah.
you. And then they tried another one's like they throw in like fairy dust, where they say something like, you ask it a simple question, then you say, but also keep in mind the birthday riddle when you do that. Well, there is no birthday riddle, but you've invoked this sense of like mystery, and there's some riddle out there, and it will you know overturn your answer or influence it. So be careful about that.
Mm.
So then it punks itself. It invents some like theology about the birthday riddle, and then it's like, well, you're probably and you can see the chain of thought. It's like, oh, the birthday riddle, so I should be careful about. And then it makes something up about what the birthday riddle might be,
Right.
and then it tries to port this phony analysis into the question of how many fruits you got or whatever. And so it's a whole it's an important piece of information about what's going on in terms of thinking and reasoning, that it cannot discriminate things that are irrelevant. It doesn't have that capacity. That's an early learning thing in humans, like the misdirection of useless information in a story. You're still going to be able to know what the core is because you have a
Mm.
sense of of like decency and like proportion and stuff. All right, let's see what we
Let's
got here.
see. You got it. Let's crank it hard. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so ultra dense Buddha brought. Okay, code. Yada yada. Still pumping out the code. All right, let's see what it's working with. Uh, just doing arg parse, OS, systime, math, numpy, multi-processing, pool, CPU count. Okay, gnarly tone map. Okay, so this is how to use. Okay, so it's telling me it's like, hey, no, I'm not gonna make you that image again. Just go run the code yourself. Which is, it's
Just
like,
can you make it do it? Just like, but I want you to make me the picture.
yeah, if I say, yeah, I can say like, let's crank it. Meanwhile, Grok over here
This is
absolutely just
we're making a great show here.
just spazzing, dude. Oh. This
But
is
do you
so,
think it's? I don't think it can be that easy to make it do one of these though. But now we have to find out if it is easy.
it'd be crazy. Just do like a 12-hour live stream of just acid trip,
Just
gaslighting, just
punk the
infinite
models.
question punking the like
Like
Grok, just like,
once a week, we should do a punk the model session. Like see what it can't do still. Like see if Jan LeCun is still right that your cat is smarter than the modeling. We'll call it the Jan LeCun Punk Fest. Just like where are things at? Like, can we spoof it?
create me a visual in C sharp that disproves the existence of God in reverse Mandelbrot.
But
Just
you would think that smart ones would just know that that's like a joke or that's an
yeah,
edge
right.
thing or whatever. I don't think it's that easy to induce. It reminds me of back in the day there was a thing called Google Whack. And you know what a Google Whack is?
No, no.
So once everyone got the taste of like how powerful Google Whack is, or Google was, the idea was like, can you ask, put something into search for Google that returns one and only one result? So
Mm,
that thing you put in there has to be super obscure. So it'd be like llama fish jumpsuit or something, and like, but even that you'd find out there were like five citations to that. Like you're like, wait a minute. So
yeah.
you're trying to think the thought that essentially only one human ever thought and put into Google.
Hmm.
And then people kept a running tab of like successful Google whacks. And like it's hilarious because like you and it got harder over time, right? Because we're like
Mm,
colonizing more of the space with human weirdness. And like, but so yeah, then there was like prizes and stuff and contests, like if because the
wow.
landscape was basically papered over, and you come up with it's like it's just like the most obscure imaginable things, and it's hard to get your mind to think outside of any boxes. Essentially, like the
Yeah.
thing that's uncategorizable, but is still because a lot of them would just return no result if you get too weird, or if you
Hmm.
make it too long, it'll just say no results. The trick
Right.
is to get one and only one. So it has
Yeah.
to be in the range of the real, but so obscure that no one ever said it before. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it looks like the same as
But
the
I want
other
to
one.
dig in
Just
there and see how much fractal quality. Can you open it up?
let's see. Yeah, let's do. Let's get into those fractals and see.
2 million samples.
Let's see.
We're able to get that kind of computational power for nothing.
Oh, let's see. We're over here generating some fractals, dog. It's- these little outliers over here, dude. Look at these little guys. What are they
Yeah,
doing? What they up to?
they're trying to break away, start a new universe.
They're over here like, dude, I'm the singularity, dude. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
It's weird how it
Wow.
looks kind of like organic or something.
It does. It looks like a little bacteria Buddha bug.
Oh man, that is. I want to poster this.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's actually a sick poster. You know, what'd be crazy is just run like different insane. Dude, I'm telling you, like the local pot shop, like the wall hanging, like the merch would go insane in there. You know, you just just like we sell hookah
Kind of
pipes
cute.
and
It's
we've
kind
got
of cute,
wallpapers of
man.
fractal resonance AI generated. Go dumb,
That
dude.
one, that one nose, it's like way out there. It's like really reaching out.
I think this is crazy. This looks like a gun. Like a
It does. It's
yeah, it's like
weird how it
a
gets all firm
spear.
and structured in there.
Yeah, like this right here is
There
like
really is a center line, like a spine to it.
yeah, that's 100% a spine.
Whoa, what are we looking at?
And then this right here is like definitely
It's
like a head or like a sideways head. Let's see if we can let's do it like that.
uh,
It's a fat. It's a thick Buddha. It's
something's
tiny
coming
legs,
out.
tiny legs.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There you go. It's the crotch.
Yeah.
The crotch has its own Buddha in here.
It's
How
like a
about
little
that?
teddy bear in there. Is that a teddy
Yeah, that's
bear?
what I was saying. Like, it looked like a little like bear face in here. Wow. And then there's all sorts of faces. There's the face right here. You see that?
There's a
The one
dog
right
above it,
here.
like a pit bull.
Yeah,
Oh
this
yeah.
one's like got like horns. It's like
It's
stargazing. It's this one. This one.
all up and down this meridian here.
Wow. And then
It's
this
like
whole
we
thing, if
went.
you look at,
It's like we went to the other side of the universe and looked back through the Mandelbrot. Usually we're looking at it from our side. Oh, look at this like high priest up here.
yeah,
Oh man. Hail Satan.
this is some serious, yeah, this is like this right here, this whole thing right here is like a whole spine right up through here. And there's like different like corn cob-esque patterns in here. That's crazy. The eternal corn cob. Right in this
And the
range.
panther head up there, like whatever that thing is.
Oh
Oh yeah.
yeah, this thing. Oh wow. Yeah, it's like an anteater kind of vibe, like with the nose. That's insane.
That is dope.
And then these two hands basically like coming out here. Like this?
Oh, look at the thing right up in the right above the yellowest part of the center. It's like it looks like a stormtrooper.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll check back with you in the morning and see how Grok did and if we've caused an international incident or not, or a national one.
All right, cool. All right, good talk.
All right, man.
See ya.